Afternoon, everyone. I'm Fern Scatafero. I'm a physical therapist in a rehab director here at the Woodlands at John Knox Village. I'm also a guide of two of the short-term homes, and it's a pleasure to be here again and hope to answer most of your questions and share a little bit of our work with you guys.
Hi, I'm Candace Robinson, and I'm the clinical nurse liaison. I also run the admissions department here for short-term rehab. And we were on this meeting last month talking about how we grew our rehab, how we aligned with the bundle, and basically how rehab in a greenhouse home looks differently and how we market it. And I know that everybody wanted to see more pictures and to kind of put pictures with the story we told. So if a picture paints 1,000 words, then if the picture's with 1,000 words, then we've got a lot of pictures. So there won't be much data, so you guys can definitely ask us questions, but we just kind of wanted to get a feel of how we developed our rehab, how we do it in the home, and then we wanted you guys to look at our gym in the home, and then also our gyms in the building, and then also our gyms in the rehab homes. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So this is what's going on? Hold on one second. I think I'm going to get started. There we go. So this is the front of our building. You can see the blue in the middle kind of defines the two homes. So we have a home on one side and a home on the other that mirror each other, and then they go all the way up to 6 stories. The first 2 are our rehab homes, and then we have on the 3rd floor, we have 4 rehab homes, and then we're working on a 5th one that we're kind of doing a hybrid for. So this is what it looks like from the back, or I'm sorry, from the front. As you can see, we didn't have lots of land, so we had to build up, and I think we're one of the few that have actually done this where you build up instead of take a lot of land. So this is the back of our building. You can see we kept in with the greenhouses model of the circular rooms all centralized around the kitchen and the hearth area. So quite literally it looks round in the front and it has kind of this U shape in the back, which is really great. And we call it the Woodlands because in most of the rooms you can see on the corners here, you literally are in the trees at the bay windows. It's gorgeous.
So if you notice the way that our building is made, the greenhouse always talks about being in contact with outside. So you can see we have a lot of windows. And when you admit someone to a new home, for long-term or for short-term, I always try to maximize, kind of introduce them to the environment, because I think that's so important for them to facilitate their first few days or first few hours and make them feel welcome. So if they are in a room that faces the tree, I usually bring them close to the tree and we start talking about the beautiful, the outside, the sun, or the whatever it is that I feel it could make them feel welcome. So the environment is very important. The windows in the greenhouse are great ideas, and so we follow that recommendation.
Yeah, and we have small homes of 12, just to reference. So when you walk in, this is our front lobby. We have no homes on the first floor. This is our basically, I'll go through and show you what's on the first floor, but we have a 24-hour concierge that's there at the desk. In our front, this is looking to the front door, so you also have a straight vantage point to the back door there, which was that patio that we showed you. We have elevators to the right. We have the stairwell locked, and it's for emergencies only. We have one central elevator, and we use it for everything. We don't even have a plant facilities or a back elevator system, which is good and bad. We have noticed that it's kind of posed a little bit of an issue because families, change of shift, visitors, it gets quite, you can wait a while to get on the elevators, but it works for us, and we really wanted to, create that home environment with the lighting and everything like that. It's really a great area. Mm-hmm. This is the other view. So if you're at the concierge desk, this is what it looks like. We have a nice little sitting area there. Actually, we just had a wheelchair type Chi class that took place in our lobby yesterday for an hour, and it was quite impressive. People were walking by and kind of mesmerized by everybody doing the Tai Chi on their wheelchairs. It was great. So we have a bistro on the first floor. This is a Panera style bistro. We're open from 7 A to 7 P. We serve beer and wine, and this is really, we allow the employees and families and our residents to eat here. Even if you're not in the Woodlands, you can come here and eat. So it's kind of cool. We get this nice mix of staff, you know, hanging out with the Shabazz and the nurses and the residents, and it's been quite great.
So, and what I think it's so interesting, you know, we just celebrated our 1-year anniversary, but you find in the bistro, sometimes we held meetings in the bistro, and sometimes you find employees with their laptop doing work. And in the front, like Candace said yesterday, we had the Tai Chi. Every space of the building is used for different tasks. So it's not like institutionals where every meeting is held in a conference room. Everyone has an office. So the fact that we interact with elders, employees, short-term guests, it creates that nice, homey atmosphere.
So this is the view from the outside. You can see the Palm Bistro there, and those are the double doors that lead to the back that you just saw from the inside. And this is really great. We have a nice area that's covered here, and you will see people eating out here. I mean, it's really hot here today. We're in South Florida, so you know how that can be, but people are still always outside. What's really great about this space is because we are pet friendly. Currently, we don't have full-time pets in the home, but we invite people to bring their dogs, especially, all the time. This back patio, you'll frequently see people visiting with their dogs out here, and then we actually have a path that leads to a little dog park that we just built. So I tell people when I'm out in the hospitals, and I'm like, if you're coming for rehab, you know, do you have a dog? You can bring the dog. We have a dog park. People really, really love that. It's been quite a draw. And the environment is just, I mean, everybody loves a well-behaved dog. So we have our concierge has a dog treats behind the counter and knows all the dogs by name. It gets really, really nice. This is our spa. And this is really great for marketing, of course, when someone's coming and they've been in the hospital, be it a stroke or even just a hip replacement, the ability to get their nails done, their hair done. We have a esthetician that can do facials, and we have massage therapy, and we're open every day except for Sunday. And this is really a big draw. A lot of times I have people before they're even transferred here making appointments so they can make sure they get their hair done. Which is just, it's all about the mind, the body, and the spirit. And I think, you know, if you're starting to feel better, going to the spa and getting your hair done, you know, makes a world of difference. So on the first floor, we have our rehab gym. And I'm going to show you this shot and then this shot here. So this is walking in the door. To my left is her equipment, and then Fern can tell you about that equipment. And then this is our rehab gym. I would say about 80% of the therapy we do is done in the home itself, and I'm going to show you all of that equipment and how we laid it out. But this actually ended up being a second business for us because, or a new avenue of new business, outpatient therapy. So what we're finding is that this gym is utilized mostly for people who continue to come back because they love their therapist so much and do outpatient. And Fern can tell you more about the square footage and everything on that.
This is our outpatient clinic, but as Candace said, it's open to all the elders in the community because John Knox Village has independent and assisted living facilities also. So we open that because it just increased, the therapists are in contact with the residents all the time. They come in to exercise on the bike, some independently, sometimes they walk on the treadmill, and then are to use her equipment. And as I said, 85% of the treatment is done up in the homes. But once in a while, when we need a special large equipment, we bring them down.
Now, Fern, explain the her equipment and how this works.
The her, I wasn't familiar with that until last year. It's an excellent equipment for the elder. because it's if I don't know if you can see, there's an area with a little computer, almost like an iPad to the right side of the equipment. The elders are trained on how to use it, and then they use a bracelet that through the computer, the therapist or the personal fitness person can set up a work exercise program for them, and we adjust using the computer as we go. So through the computer, if I put someone, if I know someone can start the 2 pounds for shoulder exercise, and then in a week or two, I know they will be ready for 2 or 3. And so we can determine what the exercise program and adjust on our computer. And when they use that bracelet and touch the bracelet on the iPad, the machine is adjusted to the weight that was predetermined for them. So it's very neat. And they do enjoy the freedom to come in and do their own exercise. This is mostly for the independent and outpatients.
This is basically computerized your personal trainer. So, you know, the resistance is programmed to you. It encourages you to do just one more rep based on what you did last time. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's really quite impressive that you sit down and it's all adjusted to your height. You know, you don't pinch your fingers doing all the weights. And if you're like me, you don't have your arms where your legs should be and your legs where your arms should be at the gym. So this has been a really great thing. We have a lot of residents working out on this every day. So now we're going to go into a home. This is a rehab home. So on floor 2, we have a rehab home to the left and to the right. So you get out of the elevators and you look to the left. You'll see we have the door and the doorbell to be rung. We really like the fact that we have to ring the doorbell. So the doctor comes, families come, they have to ring the doorbell. These doors are alarmed. So we did that for memory care because we integrate, and you can, in long term, it would be more of a necessity. But what we found when we moved here is that from our quote unquote locked memory care area that we moved our residents into this area, we haven't seen wandering like we used to. We don't have the people trying to escape like they did in the isolated memory care, memory ward unit. You know, I think a lot of it has to do with their freedom to walk around and also to sit outside on the porch and feel like it's a real home and not feel like they're locked into an institutional setting. This works great in rehab. I will tell you that sometimes it's just a learning. Sometimes ringing the doorbell gets hard with the staff if they're busy. So, you know, I don't know if it's one of our things that we go, oh, this is kind of not working. You can,
with the assistance of the greenhouse, you know, our friends from the greenhouse, we're looking into that, because for the short-term homes, for some of you guys, if you have a short-term home, we've noticed that it's the welcoming attitude or ringing the bell or waiting at the door. It was kind of imposing too much on the staff, because many times you have 10, 15 guests coming into that door in 1 hour because they go down, they go outside, the family members come. So it's a much busier home. So we're looking into the alarm, and still, of course, always continue the welcoming attitude. From anywhere you are in the house, you go and say hello to your visitors. But we're not sure about use of the alarms and ringing the bells in the short-term homes. So we're looking into how can we still be welcome and protect the house as a home, but not have too much noise.
And on the staff, the noise quality does become,
right.
The constant, because I mean, you'll see we have a call system that is completely quiet. So a hallway light lights up, and then we can monitor the Shabazz and the nurses' response time, but it's all done through their iPhones. So what we were seeing was this constant, especially with all the visitors in rehab, the doorbell was ringing a lot, and it was kind of creating that institutional noise factor where we had eliminated it before that. So just some things that we're working through. So you can see my kitchen in the back there. You can see our main living area. All of the rehab homes have a central living area. We have lift chairs, approximately 4 for each of the rehab homes, 4 lift chairs in the hearth area. We did not put recliners in the room, and we'll go back to that because in a long-term care home, I think it's different, but in rehab, especially with people who are, having their knee replaced or their hip replaced, that is one of the things that people say that they wish we just put a really nice chair in the room, but not an actual recliner. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at doing that now, one home at a time. But this little centralized area, just kind of give you an idea, therapy is done right here. I mean, you'll come and you'll see various people doing therapy in different areas of the hallway, in the chairs, in the kitchen, and I'll show you some pictures of how that looks. If you can imagine, your back is facing, if you're looking at this view, your back is facing a sunroom, and it's a really beautiful lit sunroom. In a long-term care home, we have some chairs and like maybe a card table, but in the rehab home, we have rehab equipment. So I'm going to show you how that looks. These are our kitchens. This is actually our orchid home, our rehab home where Fern is a guide. We have the centralized tables. The tables can be broken up, but we really haven't even needed to do that. What we've done, which is really great in the orchid home, and Fern can talk more about this, is create convivium. And you think, okay, how do you have strangers, 12 strangers that are here for 2 weeks to 4 weeks? Our average length of stay is 5 days for a knee, 12 days for a hip, and like the whole total is around 21 days. So how do you get these strangers to not want to sit in their room? Mm-hmm. And Fern, you can talk about what you guys have done.
Even though we have 2, 3 different tables, to create space for 12, we never thought about separating the tables. This is the most fun. That's where the fun and the convivium happens. And I do think it's so important for their well-being that they sit together and they talk about their day, their therapy, their progress, or even when they're not feeling well. We have so many elders, so many rehab guests that come. They want to come for dinner, even when they don't feel well, because they know they're going to feel better after they laugh or they talk or they have the great food and all. So the convivium is a great part for me. It's one of the most important part of the healing process in the short-term home.
And when I give tours, you'll see the daughter go, can my mom eat in her room because she's not really social, Since Dad's died, she just doesn't even want to go down. Like, she's not going to be social at all. And I say, yeah, you can eat in the room, but, we want to encourage her to get up and eat. And it never fails. Usually by the 2nd or 3rd day, they're like, Mom is loving it. She's eating a meal out there. Just the smell of the food draws people out. Also of note, something that worked really well for us, Fern and her Shabazz came up with convivium cards. So that's a really neat, if conversation is lagging or you kind of, want to make it a little exciting, it's basically cards that they go around and they just tell me about your best summer ever. If you had one place you could go in the whole world, where would it be? And everybody picks up the card and then they go around and answer it based on their experience. And that's really been great.
And one thing I want to point out to you guys as the convivium cards and initiating conversation. After we moved in, what I noticed is a lot of our elders that come for the short-term rehab, they are living alone in the home. Many of them already having trouble driving to the restaurants, or some of them don't see well to go out at night. Family members are usually up north somewhere. Here in Florida, we have a lot of elders that they have been lonely for many years before they come to us. So the convivium, even though it's such a happy sometimes and such a warm, cozy place in the house, initiating conversations for them is something that needs to be kind of brought up by us, I always say the silly, stupid questions or what, you'll be surprised how the social aspect of the short-term homes will impact their well-being also in their healing.
Yeah, and I've had people that say, well, my mom, after her stroke, her face is just kind of droops on one side, and so she's very self-conscious when she eats. And I think that Fern and her staff have had such a wonderful way to make people feel invited, and when they know something like that, and I can tell Fern and I can tell her staff, hey, she's a little self-conscious, then we really do work on trying to make them feel comfortable. So here's one of our rooms. You can see the woods, how it looks there, and how we're like I was talking about being right in the trees. It's pretty amazing. These are the chairs that we have in the room, and like I said, that's probably been our biggest complaint. Is just that they wanted a recliner. We have extra wide beds, hospital beds. They are in between they're a little smaller than a full-size bed. So, and we have Tempur-Pedic mattresses. We really wanted it to not be hospital feeling, as far as sleeping on the beds. Of course, with ACA and with regulations, you had to have some things that were institutional, but we tried to modify it as much as possible. Here's another room here, and you can just see this is on one of the top floors. So those windows go all the way up to the very top of the ceiling. Mm-hmm. So we have 55-inch flat screens in all the rooms. Netflix, people really like the fact that they can access their own Netflix with their account. They love that. So that's a good thing. So here's a sunroom. In a long-term care home, this is off of the den and off of the hearth area. This is a sunroom, and this is for a long-term care home. This is how it looks. This is where we put the Christmas trees and the holidays, so at night you can see them lighting up through the windows. It's really amazing. We have a main freeway right there, so people can look in and see that. That's great. But that's how it looks in a long-term care home. This is the same exact room in a short-term rehab home. So we have, you can see my table here with the puzzle, with the speech and speech therapy that can progress right there, or that they can work right there, and then you can see our exercise equipment, and that's kind of how we lay it all out. We also have a den, and I'll show you a picture of that. Fern, do you want to talk anything about this at all?
You know what, when I look at this table, we decided to bring those card tables to basically engage with them off hours. When they're not in therapy, what can we do? How can we create an experience outside of the room? Because we really want them to be, our rehab guests to be out of the room as much as possible. So this table brings up, there was a lady where she was with us, and she would have to be with us at that time for over 2 months. We knew it would be a long stay, and she would come and park her chair, and she would spend like hours just trying to find one piece of the puzzle. And even though she wasn't accomplished much, but every day after dinner she would come and sit there, and so we would sit and talk to her. She didn't need to be helped, and she did not finish her project. But very important that you think about how can we combine the rehab with the meaningful life and engagement for our elders.
Yeah, in a short stay. So this is a little bit more of the equipment there, and you can kind of see this is looking back from the window. You can see the hearth area and one of the the lift chairs there. So we have our games that we do. So this is a therapist this is one of our elders on the left engaging in with his boot on there doing his therapy. And then on the right, this is actually, this is our therapist. This is therapy happening right now. So he is opening the door. He will be walking outside. It's not ambulates 153 feet with rolling walker. That's not what we do. It's, walking them outside. If they have grass in their home or in their yard that they need to walk on, we will walk them in the grass. It's walking down steps. Getting some fresh air. We have a little gazebo area outside with like 2 or 3 steps up. So they really don't even realize that they're doing therapy a lot of the time.
And you would probably think this is a physical therapist, but she's actually a speech therapist. Okay. And the project that day, what she was doing is preparing this gentleman and his wife to orienting themselves to the space, bring them downstairs, back to the elevator. How do you go back? What home? What floor? All those questions. So she was doing functional rehab, and I love that idea. She is very creative, and you will find therapists that have such an easy time embracing. Some others you need to guide them. So speech therapist walking with someone is a unique thing that happens here.
Nice. Yeah. So here's our den at the end of the hallway, and you can see we have the equipment set up, and this is in all 4 of the rehab homes. So You could quite feasibly eliminate the large gym downstairs and accomplish the outcomes that were. Do you agree with that, Fern?
Yeah, absolutely. I prefer and I encourage all the therapists to do the therapy in the home because one, the Shabazz can observe the treatment and then they continue after therapy session is gone. And two, because I always say we're preparing them to go back home and not to go back to the gym. So short-term rehab, functional rehab, it should be happening in the homes.
Yeah, and it's really key. I mean, the Shabazz, if they are, making a meal or helping do something in the house and they see Mrs. Jones with her rolling walker walking, to the dining room table and back, then at night when it's 11 o'clock and she uses the call bell and she needs to go to the restroom, they feel empowered to help her get up and they're fully aware of what her capabilities are. And one thing we don't say here is, no, just go in the bed. We'll clean you up if we have to. Like that's what we're not about. So it's really empowering as a nurse and as the Shabazz to say, no, I know she can, come get out of the bed pretty easily, and not worry about, is she going to fall? Is she steady? What does the doctor's order say? That kind of thing. So here's the gym. And here's one of our elders here getting his rehab. He wants royalties for this, by the way. And this is the therapy that happens, right there in the home. So this is our speech pathologist, not down in the speech lab, not in the mock dining area. This is her in the home trying out food. This particular guest, his significant other came down after this particular moment and was in tears. He said, what makes this place amazing is the food and the fact that the therapy is being done right there. And he said he has not put anything in his mouth in 8 weeks since he had a stroke. So that's really impressive.
So in our Shabazz in the short-term homes after a year, they've learned so much by just observing the therapy sessions. You notice the speech therapist on the left, she's sitting at the dining room table, and at the same time she is working on breakfast with this gentleman. The Shabazz is cleaning up after breakfast and observing and listening to her verbal, how is she cueing him, how is she holding the cup, what type of food he's eating, because he's not 100% oral, regular food, but the Shabazz learned by observing, and at the same time she's doing her job. On the other side, the speech therapist was in the counter closer to the dining room, and the Shabazz again listening to her on this person that had some cognitive issues. The Shabazz was listening to her and learning again how to be with that lady. And so at the moment the therapy session is done, the Shabazz will continue working with the guests without even noticing sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know any other model where the actual caregivers, the Shabazz, the person who is the closest to you, understands what activities need to be done once the therapist leaves. So and most of the times they say, okay, you're going to do these motions 8 times, 4 times a day, and then they leave. Now the Shabazz know that. Now the nurses know that. Now the guide Fern knows that. And so they really do, make sure that people are doing their therapy, and it's absolutely amazing. So I just brought this to say we use all alternatives of therapy. We're working currently, because this is going so well. We struggle with reimbursement, but we're looking at pet-assisted therapy. How can we get these dogs to provide resistance when you're doing your physical therapy? That's really what we're looking at now, because we think this model will just align with the greenhouse so well. And we like to say that therapy happens anywhere in a greenhouse home. So I wanted Fern to kind of talk about this resident. She is an ankle fracture. Is she non-weight bearing?
Yeah, this resident was preparing herself to go home, and she's still in a wheelchair, as you can see, and non-weight bearing on the right lower extremity. So she is ready to go. She stayed with us just for a few weeks, And what I asked of her that day too, that she was packing her suitcase, and I asked, can I observe you doing it? Can I help you? She says, don't help, just look at me. And so she started, and I asked permission to take pictures because I was so impressed with how comfortable she is preparing her suitcase, packing everything before she went home. So the level of confidence, you know, how Japan would be. In any other place, we would pack for her, we would put everything in the bags and just send her off. Here she was proud of the fact that she, and I told her, if it doesn't work out, you know, you can always come back, giving her words of confidence. She says, don't you worry, I'm not coming back. I know I can do this. So the words of her, it's just so inspiring to me, you know.
Yeah, I wanted to show this. This slide is really huge. If you look at the top of the restroom there, you can see this is one of our rehab homes, but we have these in all of the bathrooms and homes in every 144 rooms. This is a Hoyer lift. It's Hoyer lift capability with the track that goes into the bathroom. So in any room in any of the homes here at the greenhouse at the Woodlands, we have the ability to connect a Hoyer lift and do a one-person assist to help that elder go into the restroom, and that promotes dignity, and that's what we're really about. So I wanted you to kind of see that, how we architect, how we made the cutout for the bathroom to make it all accessible. Also, you know, in a lot of the institutional setting rehab, you would have someone doing dynamic movement, dynamic walking, and you'd have them walk through cones, walk around cones, in and out of the cones. But how are they going to view that when they get home? Are they going to relate that as walking around the cones is the same as being able to make my bed? So we can document, we can do the same type of therapy, but have them do activities that are meaningful to them. For instance, you know, she's here making her bed. She is non-weight bearing on one leg and she's making her bed. But that's what's important to her to do at home, right, to make her bed, to be able to do her laundry, and to be able to get in and out of the bathroom. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we're very successful with her because she was so independent and she knew she could do that. Mm-hmm. So here's our pet assistant here. So it's your rehab, you decide. You decide when you want to start. You decide if you want to go into the evening. Sometimes we have people who want to sleep in till 11. And what we do when they come are ready. Do you want to get out of bed at 11 o'clock at night and have tea? If that's what you do, we'll make it happen here. So it's not a one-size-fits-all at all. So home is not a place, it's a feeling. Are there any questions?
Excellent. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to do this follow-up webinar. Just so everybody knows, I have included the link from last month's webinar in the chat box. So if you're interested in hearing a little bit more about the data behind this awesome community, you can click there and take a listen. But if anybody has questions, the chat box is open. I'm going to leave everybody muted because there are a lot of people on the webinar, and so I'm afraid for background noise. But if you do have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box, and Fern and Candace will do their best to answer. It looks like we have a few already. So Nancy asked, do you include caring for pets in therapy for people who have pets at home?
Absolutely. We actually would let them bring the pets here. So we can't let them spend the night. Of course, you'd have to have someone that could care for the pet, but we will absolutely. I mean, if walking their dog is something that they would do, we bring the dog here, and definitely 100%.
Yeah, and they can keep, I've had a rehab guest that being around, she really wanted to go home. She did not like the idea to stay here because of the fact that she was away from her dog. So we found someone, she found a friend that would bring the dog in the morning, keep her with her in the room. She would do her therapy and everything else. The dog was there, and by the late in the afternoon, the dog would go back home. So yeah, I think it's a part of the healing. Whatever it's important for the elder, we make it happen.
Yeah.
And someone about the staff.
Go ahead.
The staff model, I think someone was asking us to. We do follow the 3-2-1. We have 3 Shabbats that come from 7 in the morning, 2, 7 to 3. Another person comes from 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 in the afternoon. And then at 3 o'clock, we have 2 Shabbats that will stay on the second shift until 11 o'clock. And then 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. We have 1 Shabbat and 1 nurse per short-term home.
In our short-term homes, we have 1 nurse in each home. So it's 1 nurse per 12. I've been asked before if that's an RN or an LPN. It's a mix. I will tell you that with the LPNs, they are, we've provided training for them. So they're extraordinary LPNs. But we always do have an RN in one of those 4 rehab homes at all times. But our director of nursing, we actually have a director of nursing for just our short-term rehab, which really allowed us to adhere to the lower readmission rates, lower infection rates. You know, we have 1 dedicated director of nursing for those nurses and those types of patients. So that's been really great. And she's a nurse practitioner. So she trains all of the nurses as well.
Great. And do you see the next question is, what is the number of rehab communities versus the number of long-stay communities in the Woodlands?
Oh, in the building. Okay. So we have 12 homes, and we have 4 homes for rehab. 4 homes for rehab, and they're on the first 2 or the second and third floor. And then the other 4 floors have long-term care. So it would be 4 for rehab and then 8 for long-term care.
Okay. And does this community receive both Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement?
We do. We have Medicare and Medicaid. Here's something that's different. So we are a continuing care retirement community. Unlike other places up the street that are just a skilled nursing, like a for-profit skilled nursing, or not-for-profit, we have what's called sheltered beds. So while we are Medicaid certified, because we have 1,000 seniors that live here, or 1,000 elders that live here independently, and it's basically an insurance plan. A life plan community is an insurance type of product. We are allowed to reserve those Medicaid beds for our residents should they spin down. So that being said, our 4 long-term care floors, so the 8 homes that are long-term care homes, we have those beds duly certified for Medicare and for Medicaid. Our short-term rehab homes, those 48 beds, they are not certified. They're not dual certified. So if I am evaluating a person, say from the hospital, and they have Medicare or Medicaid, I will bring them into short-term rehab if they are a knee or a type of diagnosis that I know for sure we will be able to discharge. And we did not certify our rehab for Medicaid because we wanted the ability to move them. That being said, like if you have Medicare and Medicaid, the person could say, well, I'm not going to leave this room. So if someone does switch over from the community to Medicaid, we would have to move them to a Medicaid licensed certified bed, and that's not in our rehab area. So it was just kind of to protect those beds for turnover and to generate revenue to offset the cost for the building.
Okay, thank you. And do you see the next question from Julian?
How do universal workers navigate AM care when residents want to get up at different times, eat different times, etc., and those times conflict?
Yeah. You know, somehow they manage. It's all about communicating with them, and they do go in and If I'm just busy with one rehab guest and then the other one is ready to get up, I would just go in and say, would you give me 5 minutes? Or it's just, the Shabazz are very good in communicating. In a short-term rehab, the therapists, physical therapists and occupational therapists, they're a very important part of the morning ADLs, showers, and general care. The therapists do go to the kitchen sometimes to train them on preparing simple meal. So the therapist sometimes assists with the house cleaning by having the guests organize their own room, you know, if it's something that they need to prepare the guests to go home. So it is very busy, but the Shabazz, our empowered, wonderful group of Shabazz, they manage somehow. So
I'll tell you, in a long-term care home, that this works out better than the institutional model, and I'll explain why. So in the institutional model, everybody has from, say, 7 to 9 to get dressed, get down, and get to the cafeteria and eat. So you have the staff working really hard to wake people up who don't want to be woken up, to take them down, wheel them around, and get them to a centralized area at a specific time. What I've seen happen in the long-term care homes, when I walk in, you'll see 3 people of the 12 sitting out at the table. For instance, I'm just giving you one home that I'm in quite frequently. And, you know, I walk in and she'll say, you know, shh, the Shabazz who's cooking in the kitchen, shh, they like to sleep in late here. I'm like, oh, okay. So she has her 4 early risers, and then she knows her other ones that come out 9 or 10, and there's 3 Shabazz there. So they are literally able to, instead of getting them all 12 elders up, dressed and ready at once between this 1 hour window because they have to eat at a specific time, it actually works out better because they have this ability to, you know, offset who sleeps in late, who wakes up, you know, that kind of thing. It's a really amazing. And, you know, this particular home, and staying with the greenhouse model that I'm speaking of, we didn't want a centralized TV, no TV in the living room. And you walk into this home and there's a big TV in the living room. And, you know, it's the first kind of institutional thing that I see when I walk in. And I've asked them, you know, what's up with the TV? But they actually voted on it. And the TV's up because there's about 8 of them that love their game shows. So they eat breakfast, they watch their game shows, and then the other ones come out and they do an exercise video on the big screen TV every single day. And that home is just, it's so symbiotic. It's amazing. One of the residents, her son is a performer. So he brings his keyboard up and, you know, sings lounge songs in the living room. And everybody's loving it. It's just fantastic.
That's cool. Yeah, it's always all about the why behind the decision and how the decision was made. So that's a cool story.
Can a Hoyer lift be with just 1 person assist versus traditional Hoyer lift, usually a 2-person?
Yeah, talking about the ceiling lift.
Yeah, it's works exactly like the Hoyer lift, you know. And before we opened, we trained all the Shabazz. Everyone was trained on how to use the lift. Yes, we can safely transfer someone with 1 person using the Hoyer. We follow all the safe precautions exactly like we would do with a regular Hoyer lift.
Just so you know, we have a spa in every one of the homes, and I should have taken a picture of that. I apologize. It's a garden tub, and we have Hoyer lift ability over the garden tub. So if we have an elder that really wants to take a bath in a garden tub, we can do it, a jacuzzi bath. Pretty impressive. Do rehab sessions happen on a particular schedule?
Absolutely not. You know, part of my job as a guide and rehab director is to create the incredible greenhouse model in short-term rehab. So the therapists, they know better. It's about what's important for the elder. So if there's someone that likes to sleep in until 11 o'clock, somehow PT, OT, and speech, they will make their time, they will adjust their time to see that person in the afternoon. So it's whatever works for them. The therapists usually do their round with their schedule in the morning, kind of to agree with the different rehab guests what's the best time, and then whatever works for the elder is what the therapist needs to do.
So Fern says absolutely not, and I say absolutely. The schedule is so particular. It's whatever you want. That's how particular it is. It's up to you. Share the name of the rehab equipment.
It's HUR, H-U-R. I believe it's built somewhere in Europe. As I said, it's the first time I use that HUR equipment here. I believe that's the one you are asking. Stand for
HUR, H-U-R equipment.
Yeah, that's a good question. I asked that too.
It stands for like, give me a second. I'll look it up. It's long names. It's really long names. Okay. Well, I'll look that up for you. It's HUR. Okay.
I think I found it. I'm going to put it in the chat box. You can tell me if it's the right.
If you do not document ambulation progress in a usually ambulated 150 times 2 using the rolling walker format, how do you document OT progress in a way that it's not susceptible to potential CMS wreck? You see, when you're documenting PT, you can document. Of course, you have to have distances, use of the device. We can easily document ambulating 200 feet in using the rolling walker or whatever device, and then progress to 500 feet. But the occupational therapist can say independent with dressing, independent with upper extremity, lower extremity dressing. They're documenting progress like in any other institutional model, because we're not doing anything different. If you say that someone is going home and they need to be able to complete basic ADLs, and making their bed or walking to the bathroom is part of their ADLs, it's just a matter of writing the right words. The documentation is very strong because you can clearly see in the therapy documentation that it's functional. It's not improving the times where we would have to document muscle strength will increase from 2/5 to 5/5, and Medicare kept asking us, for what? Why do we need this? So right now, the documenting functional rehab is a very easy task, I would say, for the therapist.
And I think that the documentation, I think, looks the same, but the activity looks different. So instead of it being such a sterile activity, the activity becomes more natural, and then the documentation falls in place. So while you would physically be documenting that a person with a rolling walker ambulates 120 feet, it looks differently than that physical therapist in a hallway with the gown open in the back walking up and down. So I guess that the documentation is the same, but the activity feels differently because it's more organic. Like, for instance, one of the things, Fern, I love this, she said it before, you go in a gym and you, with a therapist, put a weight over your head, and you do the weight over your head with your arm bending. What is that called? You can tell I'm a nurse and not a therapist. But that literally is pulling a gallon, the shoulder, yeah, it's literally pulling a gallon of milk down from the cabinet. Now, if you can imagine, we've done this in the gym where you do the weight for, the whole 2 weeks that you're here. Oh, she's gotten really, really great at doing this weight. And then she gets home, but the person or the rehab guest can't equate that weight over their head being the same movement as a gallon of milk over the head. So that's why I say, reaching in a cabinet and pulling something down is what we do, so that the movement in their mind is not so institutional. It's an actual movement, and they know that they can do it.
I want to let you guys know that even though it looks so different, we are very strict following the guidelines here, Medicare. It's part of my job to make sure that the documentation is right. We're keeping them for only as long as they need to be kept. Our length of stay is very short. Our documentation of the RUG categories for Medicare are very precise. So part of my job is to make sure that we are 100% compliant with the regulations.
What nurse notification system do you use? You mentioned the care staff notified by a smartphone. I will have to get that information to you. Do you know? It's a point click.
Yes.
No, the call bell. call. She's asking about the call bell
system. Yeah, it's I forgot the name.
Yeah, I'll get the name of that for you. The actual company that we use. Yeah, it activates on the iPhones, and then it can monitor the response time. It lights. There's a hall light on each side of the door that lights up, and it's completely quiet. So that's a really good one. I will tell you for purposes of just some learning blocks that we've run into. We have it hooked with a cord to the wall, which we didn't really like because it looks so institutional, but we did it anyway. I am finding that elders in long-term care homes who need support on ambulation or who are at risk for falling, they can't sit in their recliner, which is on the other side of the room, and reach the call bell. So I would suggest having a wireless free kind of system to use in those type of circumstances. So it's called the SARA system, S-A-R-A, the SARA system.
And so this is such a great system for many of you, because every night as a guide, I get a report in my house by email to see what's our average response time. And from the whole Woodlands, our average response time is usually 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes only. So it's interesting because one of the complaints I remember I had to address in institutional models is the elders saying it took forever for the caregiver to respond to the call. So over here, because we know the Shabazz are committed to the elder and they're committed to the home and the well-being of so they respond much quickly, and I can confirm that through the reports. Challenges with the survey in the rehab homes. No, when they came last year, it was basically, I think the first month when we first opened, so we had a group of state surveyors, they came, and they were impressed, they looked at everything, they knew about our commitment to stay within the guidelines, and we did not have any issues. The area that they were concerned, but I think, again, it's almost like a learning experience for them, is the kitchen, because you have staff going from the kitchen to care, they do different tests. But we have a great group of managers that keep educating us on how to check temperature of the food and cleanliness and sanitation of the kitchen, everything. So we did very well. We are in our window now, and I believe we're well prepared to see them again.
We actually were, as recommended by the Greenhouse Project when they were guiding us to do this, we approached our surveyors first. And we said, let us tell you about what we're doing. And this is the greenhouse, and this is how it looks. And we educated them about what we were doing. And we actually had people, all of the people who came and surveyed us, they were fighting over who would come and do this. So they were excited to see what we were doing so differently. And we did get a couple flags. One was, just so you know how really small, when you have 12 homes with 12 kitchens with 12 new Shabazz who've just gone through the training and they're just doing this, and literally 30 days in you come and you have ACA coming in. So it was absolutely, we were nervous, but we knew we had been well prepared. One of them was we usually have the meat that comes up fresh. It never comes frozen. Of course, on this day it came frozen. It was a weird, so she had the frozen meat in the sink, the Shabazz, and the surveyor came up and she turned the running water off and I guess talked to the surveyor, and the surveyor said, the frozen meat with the not running water. So we could definitely handle that ding. And it was quite impressive.
It looks like there are about 3 questions left, and that'll bring us to the top of the hour. So why don't you run through those and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay. Do rehab sessions happen on a particular schedule? If a resident in CJR or shift bundle, do patients receive PT/OT twice per day? If no schedule, how do you navigate to ensure the resident has enough rest in between sessions?
This is such a particular. It depends on the elder. We do We do make the time. They do understand the importance. Let's say if someone is scheduled 75-minute session in the morning, we talk to them, we explain to them, and so we rarely have anyone refusing sessions, and we make it happen. You know, if it is that okay for them to have a 2-hour session in the afternoon, it's fine. If OT wants to see them for 15 minutes early in the morning and 45 minutes in the afternoon, it's whatever's important to the elder. The time, you know, Medicare doesn't tell us when to treat them, what time to treat, and how many minutes to deliver. It's the elder telling us. So our joy is to make the business model work for what's important for the elder. So,
but I want to clarify, we do have set schedules. So, I mean, so if I come in for rehab and I'm here for a knee replacement, therapy comes in and talks to me about what schedule works best for me.
Yeah.
And then we have a schedule based on the guidelines that works best. So there is a set schedule. It's just individualized to that person. So that's how, you know, we are getting the times in, because it is. So if I come in by day 2, I have talked to my therapist. I know that this is going to be my times that I do my therapy per day. So we do have schedules. It's just highly individualized, if that makes sense. Okay, we looked into her for subacute and long-term and didn't think it was best for our population. You are using this in just outpatient, correct? Not in the other home. Yeah, we're using the HER as outpatient. So we are using it for people who go through the special training with our wellness team and determine a workout regimen for them. And it's for, most of them are independent residents that live here and come in and do that. And then if they, of course, have been here for therapy and then they go home, we can set them up with a outpatient program too when they come back. So it's not in the subacute phase. We rarely use any of the HER equipment on anybody that's here for, you know, inpatient rehab. Am I correct on that, Fern?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're asking about documentation. You can easily document distance, and I know managed care asks for distance. You can document about your tests, the distance walking, all of that, like you would do any. Remember, we have long hallways. If you go back and forth 3 times, you can accomplish 500 feet. And you can also take your rehab guests downstairs, outside, out on the sidewalk. So there's plenty of areas, and yes, we document distance on walk. Documentation, the treatment is a little different.
We currently have we only have one managed care contract right now, and that is with AvMed, and we are getting really, really great success with us. They really like the work that we're doing. We actually brought in Aetna not too long ago to see what we were doing, and you know, we're hoping to get more and more contracts as time goes on, because our outcomes and our data that we're collecting now is just phenomenal, and it's really, really blowing all of the other skilled nursing rehabs in the area out of the water.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think that given that we're at 2 o'clock, let's we'll stop there. But thank you all so much for sharing your experience and giving us a inside tour of the Woodlands and all the wonderful things that go on there. We really appreciate your time. And for everyone that's still on the call, I'm going to send out a recording of this webinar to everyone who registered. And I'll also send the link to last month's webinar as well. Please stay tuned for additional topics that will come up on our website, and I'll send out through constant contact messages to your inbox. And also, if you're interested in seeing a greenhouse home, we are hosting a workshop in September in Grand Rapids, Michigan at Porter Hills. So please check our website to get more information on that. And as always, you can email me, rmclean@thegreenhouseproject.org, and I'm happy to answer any additional questions. Thanks so much, and have a great day, everyone.
7 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
All right. Thanks.